All right.
What's
Welcome
up,
to the
guys?
Hoops Rehab Show with your man, the at Game Injury Doc and at Eric B. Mack on my right.
What's up, guys?
Welcome to the show. Uh, we could have better news tonight, but we had the Lakers lose in OKC after Luka gets ejected. So we'll get into that, dive into all those topics tonight. But yeah, tough loss, but to be expected with what we originally wanted in OKC is to go 1-1. So I'm not too down on the Lakers, but we could have got 2-0 over there. What'd you see there, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, there was the good, there was the bad. So yeah, I think even before these two games, we would have taken a one and one. Obviously outcome any day of the week, and so that's what ended up happening. Obviously, when you win that first one, you want to get greedy and get the second. Obviously, too, there was I posed that question on our last show, and that was even before we knew that Golden State and Denver had lost. That if Lakers should sit some of their players, because we know that they
Yep.
have to get 2 wins to obviously lock up the 3 seed. Hindsight being 2020, obviously is one thing, but
Yep.
at the end of the day, they went for it. Obviously, without Rui, they had a great opportunity to win the game. They were obviously in it until about the 7-minute mark when Mr. Doncic obviously got kicked out of the game, which we'll get into. But yeah, I mean, I guess some of the good too is I'm not really into moral victories, but obviously Lakers pretty much hung in with them throughout
Yeah.
this game. Kind of showed that if they do match up in the playoffs, I don't think Lakers are going to be scared of them. I think it's going to be a great matchup. And obviously, the bad is a loss. A loss is never good, and Lakers are now forced to win 2 out of their last 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, tough loss, especially when you were up 107, or sorry, 108, 107 when Luka got ejected. So that kind of deflated the team there. And the Grizzlies, I mean, sorry, OKC went on a huge run right there towards the end of the game and just finished it off. But like you were talking last game when we were talking about the OKC swarming D and how they
Yep.
kept full court press, half court press. And I want to talk about two possessions that I saw. It was towards the end of the game when Lou Dort picked up LeBron full court and literally just
Mm-hmm.
was pressing him the whole time he was dribbling and forced a turnover when he got past half court. And the second one is when they picked up Austin Reeves and he couldn't get through the double and turned it over. They scored it and won, and that was pretty much the end of the game. But yeah, man, those guys are super scrappy, super just athletic, wiry. They're gonna play hard 24/7. So they're going to be a really tough out in the playoffs. Like they're going to be obviously one of the teams to beat. Something that we'll get into towards the end of the show, but OKC looks like the real deal. Um, but these last two games have showed me one thing: the Lakers are right there with the OKC Thunder. It's not. I wouldn't say like we're so far off. Like you wouldn't even think about winning a series. This year feels a lot different than last year and the years prior. Knowing that we have JJ Redick to make adjustments and to make decisions from a game to game basis. So I have a lot more confidence kind of going into this year's playoffs than I did the previous years.
Absolutely. Yeah, OKC, definitely a scrappy team. We knew that they were going to come out gunning. They weren't going to let what happened on Sunday happen again tonight. The defense on both sides, it really kind of picked their spots. Obviously, you can't say there was much defense played in the first quarter. It was 43-43 at the end of one, which is just crazy. They both were on
Yeah,
fire.
yeah.
Interesting enough, the Lakers made 15 threes in the first half yet again as they did the other night. So obviously they're continuing to stay hot. But honestly, there's going to be nights, obviously, Lakers are not going to make those threes. But just watching today's game, the style of defense, and I mentioned it on Sunday, that OKC does play is they do allow, at least from what I can see, allow that 3 ball. And so a lot of those shots were uncontested. Lakers are obviously just going to have to continue to hit them if they see this team again. And if they do see them again, it's a good sign because it's most likely going to be in the Western Conference Finals.
Yep.
So that third quarter was like really dominant from the Lakers from a defensive standpoint. And even 4 minutes, honestly, until Luka went out, so basically the 12 minutes of the third, about 4 or 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, they had only gave up about 27 points. And
Yeah, I was gonna
then,
say the Thunder had 80 at half, right? And
yep,
so when Luca got ejected, they had 108 or 107, right? So
exactly.
I mean, that was how many minutes did the Lakers have in that game when Luca got ejected?
So
From
he went out at the 7:42 mark.
42, right? So they played hell of a good defense for those minutes in the second half. It just kind of got deflated when Luca went out the game.
Yeah, no doubt. And so obviously, like I know we were texting earlier, and you even told me
Yeah,
LeBron just looks gassed out there.
yeah,
So that presents the opposition. I'll be honest, I was on team sit players, but I do get that if you have 2 games to win and you have 4 left, you may as well just play guys all 4 games and see where the chips fall. So I totally get that. I was just a little worried about a tight game today, and having everybody. I know they're going to be available tomorrow, but having everybody just juiced and ready to go for tomorrow. So that was the one thing that I was a little worried about. But I know you were, in the camp of, hey, let's play and see what
yeah.
happens.
Yeah, I mean, for my thought was just that you got 4 games to go. You got to
Mm,
be ready. We're not in position to just rest guys at this point. We got to secure a top 3 seed. And the only option right now is to get the 3 seed since we lost today. And the
yep,
Rockets have secured the number 2 seed.
they
So
have.
my thoughts were just all from the beginning is that they have to try to get as many wins as they can, right? So if that's going all out with your guys, I was all for it. It happens, right? I mean, we got through the game. No, there's no injuries.
Yeah, that's
They might be a little bit gassed tonight, but that's the NBA, and it's always that way. There's going to be back to backs. There's going to be games. You're going to be tired towards the end of the season. But I thought the Lakers like effort was there, right? Especially in the first half, they gave a little too much on defense. Obviously, picked it up in the third quarter, which is where you want to be with the team. But just ran out of gas once Luka got kind of ejected for some terrible reasons, obviously. So I don't know if
yeah.
you want to dive into why Luka got ejected, but
Yeah, I will in a second. But one thing I just to wrap a bow on the rest conversation.
yeah,
I got to give credit to Mike Trudell. He's the Lakers sideline reporter, right, for Spectrum. And
yeah,
so in the beginning of the game, he was saying that the Lakers team told him that after that first Chicago Bulls game in LA, that the team is going to play every game unless there's injuries. So the
okay,
players.
yeah,
So I thought that was interesting. I hadn't heard that before because there's been a couple back to backs, and we're wondering, oh man, are guys
yeah,
going to be out? And so he
yeah,
mentioned that they did say that. Rui is not medically cleared to play
clear,
back to back, right?
yeah,
And I know you've mentioned that before, Doc. And so that's why they obviously chose to go the second game. I'm sorry, to have him sit out the first game as opposed to the second. But that was I thought was interesting because I hadn't heard that before until before a tip off. So
yeah. I've kind of noticed that pattern, right? I mean, LeBron has played every back to back in this since he's been back from the groin injury, right? He hasn't. I don't think he's missed the back to backs at this point.
I think so.
And so that's a good sign, right? That they're healthy for the most part going into the end of the season. Um, Rui, obviously, we kind of knew that from the get go. I don't think they were going to clear him for the rest of the year, but after tonight, we're not going to have to worry about that anymore. We're going to get into the playoffs. You're not going to have any back to backs, so
That's
Rui
it.
should be available for every game from here on out, which is pretty big key because you know how he unlocks the Lakers offense, and we've kind of
Mm-hmm.
talked about it throughout the show. But they're just play at a different speed, different pace with Rui in the offensive lineup. I liked what Dorian did tonight. DFS, right? He had a good game, hit some shots.
He did.
He's
He
always
did.
he's always going to give you the defense that you need. But really, in the starting lineup, just to me, makes such a huge difference moving forward. So at least we can kind of depend on that in the playoffs and all that stuff. So
Yeah, yeah, it's a good sign of things. And so yeah, so obviously expect everybody to be ready to go tomorrow, unless we hear different. But yeah, I know we kind
Yeah.
of teased a little bit the Luka technical fouls. Obviously, you can't say that was not a big part of the
Yeah.
outcome of the game. And so, what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, listening to what the fan said, the little super fan for OKC, and
Mm,
that Luka was at least directing his profanities towards him, and the ref just had some ulterior motive with Luka, and it was kind of maybe irritated by Luca early in the game and probably previous games that he's refed him. And so he's just short tempered. And immediately when he saw him look towards his direction or look past him to look at the fan, he thought it was him and he was out of the game. So you can see how he got like super serious about it. Oh, he's out of there, right? You see his face get all serious about it. Kind of like those umps in baseball, get all serious about
yeah,
strikes and balls and all that stuff. So you knew that was a little bit more of a personal issue right there, right? He doesn't like the way Luca talks to the refs, probably as well.
yeah,
So I mean, obviously, I didn't think it was fair, but that is the game. Luca. The one thing I will give the refs or anybody coaches in this league is we all know Luca complains a lot, and
oh yeah,
that's
too
just a
much.
part of his game. So it's going to be a part of his game, and he's going to come with teas. He's going to be coming with more of a short leash sometimes from the refs because they're so used to him complaining about most calls. So that's part of his game and part of what he's always done. So that's kind of what the Laker fans are going to have to deal with.
Yeah, my commentary on it is twofold. Like, I'm gonna just take off my Laker hat, so to speak, for a second,
Yeah.
and then I'll put it back on. But yeah, he obviously complains a lot, and it's just part of Luca. But he also has to understand that his complaining, if he gets a cheap technical early in the game, it puts him at risk for the rest of the game, right? And
Yes.
so that's exactly what happened tonight. Lakers were on a bit of a run, and he picked up a technical because he thought he got fouled a couple times
Yep.
previous to that. And it did a couple of things in my eyes. It slowed the game down a bit. It gave OKC a second to kind of cool off. They obviously went to the line, hit a free throw. And so it was like not only were you got one right and you're done, but you kind of killed a little bit of the momentum, in my opinion, in the third. And then, as I said, you're at risk for what happened, which I thought was a complete BS. These refs sometimes got to let these players play. And so I'll
Yeah.
put the Lakers hat back on and basically want to say that I mean, look, this guy has a T already. You got to just tell him to knock it off, and of course, maybe he did, but you got to tell him to knock it off. Stop tripping at the fans, because remember, you
Yeah.
have one T, and we'll kick your behind out of here. And
Hmm.
so I thought it was a little bit of a quick whistle. I think that ref, whoever, I forget the guy's name, apparently seeing some interviews and things afterwards, and maybe he's got a little bit on Luka or has something against him. But that being said, luckily it was a regular season game, and that's like something that just cannot happen in the postseason. And Luka's got to be better, but these NBA refs got to be better as well, in my opinion.
Yeah, tough scene because Lakers had the lead and and the kind of with the momentum in that second half, they looked like they could close out that game and they're ready to close out that game. And then you lose Luca and that just kills your whole momentum. And then they go down and hit some shots. SGA was pretty unstoppable in that fourth quarter towards the end there, ended up with 42 points. So that's always going to be a tough matchup for the
Yeah,
Lakers. I know we'll have some
he played
games
well.
where, yeah, we'll have some games where we get on him, and he maybe limited him to 25, right? Like it's not like you're gonna keep him in teens too much. He's a prolific scorer, and he's gonna be an issue kind of moving forward. So,
Free throws,
t-
shot 11 free throws too
yeah,
this time
oh yeah,
around.
Yeah, and he's going to get his free throws. I mean, I know he had those 2 games we talked about where he only had
Mm-hmm.
one free throw. But he's going to get to the line. He's going to get his calls. You're going to have to deal with it. But you can't let the other guys beat you.
No.
Right. So you got Caruso going off in the fourth. You had just all those guys getting after it. And so you have to find a way, like what they did in the game one against them is they got super hot and they created a big lead and that kind of killed some of OKC's steam with that. So moving forward, we got to move on. I mean, as simple as
Yeah,
that. We
it's
got
over.
three games to go, and the Lakers need to go 2-1 to be the 3 seed. And we all know how important the 3 seed is, or at least the top 3 seed is. Eric, you want to let everybody know again?
Yeah, I've been saying it all over social media, and it's real, guys. So just remember, so we've had 78 NBA champions, 76 of them, whether if it's in the West or the East, they've been a 1, 2, or 3 seed. That's 97%. So
Yep.
history and numbers tell you got to be a top 3 seed.
Yes,
And
sir.
one thing I know I've mentioned it a few times who the teams were: the 69 Boston Celtics, the 95 Houston Rockets. Just to add a little to it, those two teams were defending champions. So the year before,
Interesting.
they had won a title. So it'd be to me similar as if somehow Boston just had the same players and for whatever reason just had a fluky year and they were like a 4 seed, 5 seed. I'd be pretty
Yeah.
confident that they can make it back and obviously see what happens. So it'd
Yeah.
be similar to that. And so, of course, it doesn't guarantee it, but the odds are the NBA champ this year is going to come from one of those top 3 seeds
Yeah.
in each conference. So take it for what
That
it's worth.
that definitely added to the stat because you're basically saying that
Yes.
nobody has won outside of the top 3 if they and they weren't a previous champion the previous year,
Yep.
right? So it's like
Exactly.
usually you give the champion like no matter what seed they get, they have a chance, right?
Of
So that
course. Of
that makes more
course.
sense for them to kind of be in there. But I totally forgot the Rockets were that was their back to back. I know they won back to back, but I was like I forgot what seed they were first time, what seed they were the second time.
Right.
So that adds to the importance of finishing 2-1 and grabbing that 3rd seed. That gives you a real chance in the playoffs, and then also just like matchup wise, man. Like if the Lakers end up at 4, more than likely you're playing Denver first round. Or you're playing Golden State first round, like that 4-5, and then you have to play OKC in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's not going to be fun and it's not going to be easy. You got to get through You got to get through teams no matter what. But you have to give yourself at least a little advantage, depending on who you play. I mean, look at the Celtics last year, who they played to get through to the finals.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, hands down, were they probably the best team out there in the NBA? Sure, but if they went through the West playing that way, I don't know if it's the same path. It was as easy for them to get to the finals, right? So it's super important to get a seed that gives you a little bit of advantage, and I'll kind of leave it at that.
Oh yeah. I mean, you obviously can only control what you control the opponent that's right at your doorstep.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Boston, uh, obviously not going to take anything away from them. They won a championship, but they had a
Hmm.
fortunate run, let's say, and they didn't have to expand a lot of energy. And when they got to the finals, they were ready to roll.
Yeah.
And so, that obviously there's luck to it. There's seeding. You never know. Lakers could obviously finish at 3 and have a very tough first round matchup too. Don't
For
get me
sure.
wrong.
Yeah.
But that 4 or 5 is like, man, not only you, like you said, are you going to guaranteed get a tough first round matchup, but then you're going to get 100% OKC second round. And so, yeah, I mean, I know we're going to like probably get into a little bit of the standings and then maybe the actual Lakers last
Yeah.
3 games and what
Yeah.
we'd like to see. But a little bit later, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you got to turn the page very quickly because you got to take a quick flight to Dallas. It's going to be emotional tomorrow night.
Yeah.
And so let's hope the emotions don't get the best out of Luka and we'll
Yeah.
see from there.
Yeah, I guess before we get to the next topic, what are your thoughts on them playing Dallas tomorrow? What are the emotions like for Luka? Um,
Yep.
and do they get a win?
Yeah, guys, thanks for being on tonight. Appreciate it. Always fun talking hoops, talking Lakers with you all. So let us know, are the Lakers going to get these 2 wins? And if so, how quick are they going to get them? Are they going to get one tomorrow? How many points is Luka going to get tomorrow?
Yeah.
Be interested to see what you guys think.
Yeah, let us know any questions. Give some comments. I know people are in now. So again, follow me at Game Injury Doc on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, whatever you follow, and at Eric B Mack on Instagram and Twitter. And then also, again, any comments, questions, we'll try to answer towards the end of the show. But yeah.
Thanks, guys.
I think tomorrow's matchup with Dallas is going to be an emotional one. And Luka's, probably going to play with some jitters and kind of play with some mixed feelings. So we're going to need the other guys to kind of finish it off and step up for him.
I agree.
Yep. All right. So let's get into our second topic here. Mike Malone
Dude,
fired.
mind blown. Mind blown.
Fired with 3 games to go in the regular season. And that is a first. First we had Taylor Jenkins with like what? How many games did Memphis have left? 8 or 9 games. So that was pretty late in the season. But this is obviously not even makes no sense in any world whatsoever. When I saw this come across my Twitter today. So let's dive, get your instant reactions into what you think went wrong. What do you think happened?
It's funny because I'm gonna get a little bit into. I was doing some digging today, and I was looking and watching some Denver Nugget pundits.
Yeah.
And you'll be surprised a couple of things that I mentioned. But for me personally, it was a complete afterthought. I know they're struggling, right? They've had injuries, like we've mentioned. We're going to talk a little bit later about Jamal Murray. Like he is such a key player, and he hasn't been there, and so they've
Hmm.
been struggling. They've lost 4 straight. They're not having the season they've had the last couple of years. But by no means did I ever imagine. I honestly, if you would have told me Denver's going to bow out in the first round this year, I wasn't even thinking Mike Malone was going to get fired. I'll be honest. I was looking at my phone this morning, just kind of looking at stuff, and I swear it was like Shams posted like 2.5 seconds ago. Mike Malone fired. It was like my like Luka to the Lakers moment all over again. Like what?
Yes.
Huh? Like obviously not as big, but is this real? Like I was like, there's no way like this is true. Just because I mean he's a real good coach. He's obviously kind of a loudmouth and he kind of owns the press conference. And I'm not too sure obviously how he is in the trenches, but he's obviously Denver's most winningest coach. I mean, for crying out loud, he won a championship just 2 seasons ago or a season and a half ago. So to me, it was like most likely uncalled for. I think Taylor Jenkins getting fired not too long ago, I think unfortunately it started a trend. And I don't know, what were you? I mean, you talked a little bit about your reaction when you saw it, but what were your immediate thoughts, Doc?
Just straight disrespect. Like, look, we're Laker fans, right? We're always going to talk about the Lakers, but we're always going to talk hoops. And
Yes.
we should be happy that Mike Malone got fired, right? Because technically, they're a worse team without Mike Malone, right?
Right.
100%.
I agree.
I'm just upset as a fan because, like, I feel like let's break down some like NBA coaches that have been fired that have won NBA championships in the past, what, 10 years or so. Okay, so we're looking at Mike Malone won a championship in 2023. I mean, 2 seasons ago, is fired with 3 games to go. We got Mike Budenholzer, right? Won a championship in 21, was fired in 23. He won a championship, but was fired. Whatever reason you want to make that. Frank Vogel, obviously with our Lakers, won in
Yep.
2020, got fired in 22. Some would blame Russell Westbrook, but whatever you want to blame on that, is still a championship coach was fired. And then we got Nick Nurse, who won in 2019 and was fired in 2023. right?
That's right. Forgot about the
And
nurse.
then
Jeez.
of course we all know about Tyronn Lue. He won in 2016 and was fired in 2018. And obviously, they were going through a whole rebuild without LeBron. However, again, a championship coach. And we all seen
Yep.
what Tyronn Lue has done, right? Like, we all know what type of coach he is. We all know what type of coach Mike Malone is, right? So I just think there's some disrespect here. There's two things that could happen, right? Could he have lost the locker room? Yes, that happens in sports. Sometimes there needs to be a change. He's been there for 10 years. Sometimes there needs to be a change in voice. He is a hard ass. He's the type of coach that is going to be on people. And there might have been some people in that locker room that just were getting tired of it. I saw was a couple weeks ago when they played Portland, where he talked about he was in film session, nobody was watching it, and he was talking to players and they weren't paying attention, and he was tired of the bullshit, right? So he was probably frustrated. So there's probably some of that, and then there was friction between him and Calvin Booth, right? So that
Right.
would probably
Right.
had to do with what we talked about earlier today, losing KCP, right? When we talk about how that was
Bruce
such a big loss for them,
Bruce
right?
Brown.
So, and then Bruce Brown, originally from that championship team, right? So I think there's probably more to it, but there's no way in hell you don't go into this playoffs and just ride it out with Mike Malone. And then if you want to cut your losses in the offseason, you cut your losses. But to do it 3 games before, I, I mean, I wish I was in that meeting because either Mike Malone just went off on the owner and the president or whatever you want to call it, and they just decided to fire him right there, or it probably was pretty interesting inside that room. What do you say?
I have definitely a couple of things to unload. So, surprisingly enough, this is actually tied for the latest
Oh,
time
tied.
a coach has been fired. My man, they did my man Hubie Brown wrong in 1981. The Atlanta Hawks fired him. Obviously,
Not
Atlanta.
Hubie. Not
I know,
Hubie.
I know. I was like, I feel like
Oh
he's
goodness.
I feel like he's just disrespected all over. But man, I can't believe he's. Well, actually, no, he's just had his final game announcing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
man. So obviously, the legend Hubie Brown, he got let go with at the same time frame with the 3 games left because I read that today that it was tied basically.
Were they like in the playoffs?
Hawks in
And all that?
'81. I don't think they were. Yeah, it was
Okay,
like
okay, yeah.
a sputtering type of season.
Were
So
were they a 4 seed in the Western
yeah,
Conference? Okay, okay. Yeah,
definitely not.
yeah.
And so,
Okay.
yeah, like there's two schools of thought, obviously, right? We don't know what was kind of going on. We just know from an exterior, and we do obviously now know that there was some friction between Malone and Calvin Booth, who was their obviously GM, and there was a little bit of a power struggle. And interestingly enough, they both got let go versus one of them. And so I spoke a little earlier. I was kind of just doing some digging. I was watching a little bit of this podcast called Locked on the Nuggets,
Hmm.
interestingly enough. And they were talking about how, like, we've been telling you guys all year, there's been chatter. He's losing the locker room.
Hmm.
There was a time where if his team was feeling a little tight, they said he would take him to the movies, right? And they'd have a jolly old good time. If he felt that his team was a little bit too laxed, he'd tighten up the screws a little bit and have an extra practice. So he was kind of that type of coach, a little bit more like proactive and reactionary. But the bottom line, in my opinion, is when you're winning, obviously, which they were pretty much still winning, other than these last 4 games. That's when things obviously come to light. Um, it could be where, you know what, we're gonna get rid of him no matter what. We don't see us going very far in the playoffs. Let's try to cut bait and try to put some spark into this team, and hopefully that leads us somewhere. I don't agree with it though. I'm just saying this is what could be a thought. It reminds me of obviously with Memphis, right? I mean, who knows what's going to come of it? They've been pretty much the last couple of games they've been winning, but it didn't really spark much there, right? They've been kind of consistent at this point. So obviously, probably two total different reasons why they were fired. But it was interesting, as I mentioned, that those Denver pundits were kind of hearing a lot of chatter, and it wasn't as much a surprise to them as it was to us in the exterior, who, to be quite frank, we're not really paying attention too much to the Denver media and exactly what's going on with the Nuggets.
Yeah, 100%. So we're not behind the scenes, right? So we don't hear it as much as people in Denver do. So there probably obviously was some friction. Um, Now, I have no info on this, but typically when there's a superstar or a megastar on a team
Right.
and a coach is fired, always begs the question: was Joker or did he have anything to do with this? Which I don't think that like he's that type of player. But do the Nuggets even consult him on something like this? Right? Because he's been his head coach his whole career, pretty much, right?
Yeah, because he was there for
Yeah.
10 years, Malone. So I
He's
don't
in
think
10 years,
Joker.
so he's his whole career, right? So, like,
Yeah. Yeah, he has.
I imagine they have a pretty close relationship unless something was strained within this last year. But I mean, you have a mega superstar, best player in the league, right? And you fired a guy that's been his head coach his whole career. So I
It's
I mean,
big.
you better be super positive that he wanted something like this because I saw those Vegas odds, and you know
I was going to
what
talk about.
Vegas does.
I was
You
going to
know who is the now favorite to
come to
land
Papa. Come to Papa.
Nikola Jokic.
Nicola. I like the way you said it.
The
Nicola.
Lakers are the favorite to land him. If this is hypothetical betting
Oh
odds, right?
yeah,
Like we
of
don't. What are
course,
you
of
talking
course.
about? He has like a contract, all that stuff. But we all know that Luka and him want to play
His
together
contract.
at some point. So I'll leave that in your hands. We don't have to get into it, but I just thought that would be a little tidbit on some interesting news because I don't and I heard Michael Porter Jr. talk about like if they don't win it this year, that there's going to be some changes, big
Mm-hmm.
changes made, and I think that goes with. I mean, players will be traded at some point, right? Because they have so many big contracts right now with their big
Four of them,
guys. You
basically.
know, Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr. We got Jamal Murray, and then you obviously
You
got
got Joe.
Joker. So, yeah, I mean, obviously the Nuggets trading Joker would be ridiculous. However, this is interesting news in my opinion.
Oh yeah, it was. You know how us Laker folks, we first sign of potential, um, you know, trouble. Where like
Yeah.
I saw so many like cropped like Joker with like Laker jersey on, number 15. You know, like he looks great in purple and gold. It was just funny to see, and of course, yeah, like these odds that just came out of nowhere, like Luka,
Yeah.
not Luka. Oh, yeah, that'd be amazing. But Joker's next team, the Lakers, and so, I mean, it's always going to be that way, obviously, right? And Lakers are always going to be that top or destination, technically, for at least what people would presume would be his next landing spot, if there is a next landing spot. I don't even know what his contract details are, but it's just funny. And so, yeah, I mean, going back to what you're saying, they're basically paying like four guys right now. So
Mm.
we're not saying, oh, how like terrible of them for getting rid of KCP, right? But they just the economics of basketball, they kind of had to. They went young instead of signing those guys, Bruce Brown and KCP. And to be quite frank, those two guys are like since they've left. I mean, I haven't heard much about them,
Yeah.
but they were just such a good fit for that team, and it obviously has had a big effect, right? So that's the reason why we bring it up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just interesting. Never seen something
It's
like this, obviously, and watching the NBA and just in general, like as a fan, like you want to see the best of the best, and I really respect Mike Malone as a coach. I think he's up there top 5 coaches in the NBA. So yeah, he's gonna land. Is not gonna have a problem finding a job.
oh
I
yeah,
wouldn't be
oh yeah,
surprised if he takes a year off, maybe. But
you might.
if he doesn't, I'm sure there'll be some pretty cool places for him to land, depending on how things shake out at the end of the season.
Absolutely.
So I guess they're not the Lakers' daddy anymore. If you
I
get what I'm
know.
saying.
I know. That's the
So
one thing I did
I don't
that I
know.
did thought about. I guess our daddy
Yeah,
is no longer our daddy because he's no
yeah,
longer a Nugget. So,
yeah.
um,
And you know who their interim head coach is, right?
Mr. Adelman. Yep.
Yeah, and whose son is he?
Rick. We've had a
Good.
lot of
Sacramento
battles
Kings,
with the
Sacramento King
fans.
head coach legend, right? So, that'd be. I mean, I think he's going to eventually be a coach in this league. So it'd
Think so.
be, I mean, he's only going to have 3 games in a playoff series to even
Yeah.
put anything on his resume.
Poor guy, right? But
But
yeah.
I know he's been there for a while, and he's
Hmm.
been going through some head coaching candidacies the past
Yes.
couple years. So he's probably going to be in the running for that job.
I think so.
If they decide to stay in house, um, right now, who knows what type of coach they would be looking for, but I'm sure he'll be in the running, kind of moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think he was even like rumored to be one of the Laker candidates
Yeah,
last year.
yeah, he was a candidate last year, so
Maybe top 5 candidate or something like that. And so, I think I don't know if he's the heir apparent or not. That I'm not too sure. Obviously, sometimes when you get rid of a coach, you want to kind of get rid of everything that
mhm.
comes with it. But remain to be seen. Obviously, how well they do these last 3 games and
Yeah.
first round, and see how far they get in the playoffs. And I'm sure they'll get a temperature check and go from there.
Yep. All right, so let's dive into our next topic, kind of injuries around the league. Some, terrible, terrible
Oh
scene
man,
with Memphis
awful. That was awful.
tonight. If you guys didn't see it, it's probably not an injury you want to see or want to kind of look at. But
Squeamish.
Jaylen Wells was going up for a dunk and kind of got undercut, got his legs taken out from under him, and pretty much landed on his wrist and his head. He laid there motionless for quite some time, and the medical team was definitely taking care of him to make sure they're number one. You're going to go through any type of head neck screening. So he definitely looked like he was concussed because he was kind of motionless for a while. And then you're going to obviously want to screen the neck for any cervical issues that he hopefully didn't have. But good. He was stretchered out and taken to the hospital. They said he's alert and he has his extremities are moving. So those are all good signs when you're kind of looking at possible neck injuries or spinal cord injuries at the worst case scenario, right? So all those are positive signs. However, he did fracture his right wrist. So
Yep.
would assume that obviously will take him out of the playoffs. But it's just terrible to see. It's one of those basketball moves. You're going up for a dunk, and you kind of and the player didn't mean to do it. Just kind of was going up there and took out his legs, and wasn't a dirty play. Obviously, got a flagrant 2 because of
Figure
the
two.
violent nature of the injury,
The fall. Yeah.
the fall. But it wasn't dirty by any means necessary. So you could tell by his instant reaction was to go to him, make sure he's okay. Was just he probably was terrified that happened to him as well. So prayers up to Jaylen Wells and kind of Memphis Grizzlies,
Absolutely.
and he's been a hell of a player for them. I mean, he's started 73 games this year as a rookie. So great defensive
Wow.
player, great shooter, good 3-point shooter right now. He's going to be a hell of a player in this NBA, and just hoping that he's able to recover and nothing too serious along with that injury there.
Yeah.
So yeah, tough one.
Yeah. He'll definitely be missed, and it was scary. Like unfortunately, in football, you're kind of used to seeing
Yeah,
people taken out on a stretcher, right? We've seen that so
yeah,
much in our lives of watching football.
yeah,
And in basketball, we don't really see that as much. And I'm surprised we don't see it more because people take some pretty bad falls. That
yeah,
was ugly. I'm almost like
yeah,
thinking, thank God it was just a broken wrist. I'm sure he doesn't feel too good about it.
yeah.
Obviously, like you said, he's going to be most likely concussed, and but it could have been way worse. And definitely prayers up. And obviously, it's unfortunate because he's a big part of what the Grizzlies are doing. And yeah, I mean, I hope he gets better quick, and wishing him a speedy recovery.
Yeah, all that, man. Hopefully, get better soon, Jalen. Um,
Absolutely.
I wanted to kind of touch the Jamal Murray injury, which has kind of
Yeah,
been on the like, oh
mystery.
yeah, he's day to day with a hamstring ailment, but they never really said strain. I looked at the injury report tonight, and it said hamstring inflammation, which is, I, yeah, I don't know why they would even just say inflammation. That's not typically how your hamstring. I mean, you're inflamed from sort of injury, like a strain.
Gotcha.
So I did hear Mike Malone yesterday, which is kind of interesting, kind of say that yeah, they don't know if he's going to be back for the playoffs, and he hopes to get him back. Right? It's not like
Yeah,
a
saw
day
that.
to day thing at this point. And so he was kind of pessimistic about kind of his return. So based on some of that, I he's been out since I think it was March 26th. That was the last time he
Mm.
played. So even going on that, we're looking at roughly going on 2 weeks, right? In the next couple of days. And if he had a grade one strain, typically that healing time is from like 7 to 10 days, 1 to 2 weeks that you're going to be out. And if he had anything further than that, like a grade two partial tear or anything like that, you're looking at more of the 3 to 6 week range. So it'd be interesting to see. I don't think he's going to play the rest of the season with the 3 games left. Now, could he be back for the playoffs? It just depends on how he's healing and what his pain level is at. But from all of what I've seen and kind of gathered, I think it's a little more serious than what Denver originally portrayed with the injury.
Yeah, I saw that too from Malone. I know, ironically enough, yesterday, and so it's been such a mystery. So I know,
Yeah.
like, it's hard to right. We know that when he started his first game out was the 26th, but it's hard, right, to report on the injury because it was
Yeah.
kind of hidden. And so, as you mentioned, if it's like a hamstring, it's obviously depends on the severity. And if they're talking, they don't know if he would be ready for the playoffs. That kind of tells you that there's something there. Murray, unfortunately, is obviously he had that one great. He's a great player, but he had that one
Yeah.
great run when they won the championship, and he's been pretty banged up since, other than when he plays the Lakers, I guess. But um, I'm pretty sure they're like extra cautious because of him being injury prone, and so I don't know. I mean, do you think, like, is it just one of these things that it's just time, or do you think they test him these last couple of games just to see where he's at? I mean, is it? I mean, I know
Uh,
it's hard to speak on it because we literally have no idea what it is, but
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, what do
I
you
think,
think?
to be honest, they're trying to make sure it's good to go into the playoffs, right? So if you think if they have these next 3 games and they finish a top 6 seed, and then they will have about a week off before they start. So
Right.
that gives them, at this point, probably about 2 weeks ish, right before you're starting to play, or a week and a half ish. So I think they're trying to give him all the time he needs to heal and probably ramp him up in the next week or so. But yeah, in my opinion, I don't see him playing based on what we've heard so far. And then if they do at least get the top 6 seed, then they can have a little bit more time for him to get back there. But yeah, they're just not the same without him. He's just such an interesting player because he's regular season, it's like he's okay, right? He
Yeah.
doesn't really make all-star games. He's not
No.
all-star. But then he turns it off and becomes playoff Jamal, right? And goes off
Seriously.
and kills teams. Obviously kills the Lakers a lot.
Hmm.
Takes them out a lot of years.
Yep.
But he's a great player, and they really are a different team with him. So if they're going to have any chances is postseason, or at least in the first round at this point, they're going to need Jamal back. So I see him resting the last 3 games, and then and giving it a go in the playoffs there.
Yeah, and I just thought of something. I'm like,
Yep.
because Denver, obviously, the front office knows more than we do.
Yeah.
They may know, like, hey, he's probably going to be out, and so we're not going anywhere. So let's cut bait. So that's another, you
Yeah.
know, theory that I just kind of thought of. So well, obviously, we won't know it until their next game, I think tomorrow, and obviously, probably like you said, if he does come back, it probably wouldn't be until the playoffs. So,
For
but there
sure.
was one person that came back right recently.
Yeah, like Jalen Brunson, and I think he's going to make a hell of a difference for those Knicks as they close out the season and kind of get into the playoffs there. He was able to play
Yeah, let's
38
see that.
minutes tonight. Had about 27, so he looked like he was in better rhythm than his first game he was back. So it's good to see because that ankle was a terrible injury at the time it happened. He was out exactly a month.
That's right.
But when it happened, it was pretty gnarly. So good to see him back, and I think the Knicks are going to be a team now since they're back at full strength. They'll be a tough out in the playoffs, right? So they'll be a 3 seed, right? And depending on how it shakes up, we'll kind of get into that in the next kind of topic here. Um, but it's good to see him back, and I like to see everybody healthy going into the playoffs. You want to see your superstars there. I didn't put it on the bottom line, but I did want to ask you something. Do you
Sure.
know how many games Chris Paul has played this year?
I know he's played every single one, every game, right?
Every single
Yeah, I thought I
one
saw that. Yeah, I thought I
in
saw
his 20th
that.
year. So I wanted to give Chris Paul some flowers because he's down in San Antonio. He's playing for nothing at this point. Um,
Nada, nada.
He's played 79 games. Started all 79 games this year for the
I saw
Spurs.
this.
So I think that's remarkable. I mean, to be in your 20th season, he's about to turn 40. From what I heard recently, he said that he doesn't want to retire and he's looking to kind of take that next season. So again,
Is he gonna finally join the squad? No, I'm just
I,
kidding.
I
15 years
want
too
Chris
late.
Paul. I want Chris Paul to get a chip. He's
Yeah,
like, to
man.
me, it reminds me of like Melo, like how bad you wanted Melo to get a chip. There's a couple players out there that you always just want to get that championship. So Chris Paul, I mean, we need a backup point guard sometimes. So I don't know if LA is ever on his roster. It'd be kind of interesting to see what he does for his 21st season there. So,
Oh yeah,
anyways,
pretty impressive. Pretty
I
impressive.
thought that was a pretty impressive tidbit to add. And for him, he's had some injuries throughout his years, but he's never
Yep.
really missed like a lot of time. He just missed games or
Yeah,
unfortunately during key moments like playoffs, right?
playoffs.
So
Yeah.
he's kind of had that as an unfortunate like string or like, oh, he's injury prone. He's not injury prone. He's been a hell
Right.
of a player in this league and has been pretty consistent throughout. So props to Chris Paul for playing 79 games in his 20th season. I don't know if that will be the record if he plays all 82 in his 20th season. I know Vince Carter played a lot um, in his
We'd have
career,
to.
but I have to at that one I would have to look up and kind of get back to you guys.
Yeah, I'm not too sure if Kareem if he played
Yeah,
all 82.
yeah, or
I'm
Kareem. Yeah,
assuming not, but you never know.
yeah,
So remarkable though.
yeah, man. All right, so let's get into NBA standings, NBA
Yeah,
playoffs.
man.
What are we looking at over there in the Western Conference right now, Eric?
I gotta tell you something. Your LA Clippers are now I don't mean yours and you, but just the LA Clipper faithful out there. If there's any of you, you guys are a four seed now.
Did they win? Oh, obviously they won. But is it over now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they beat San Antonio, so they're the four. Keep in mind, 4-7 is at a deadlock. They all have
Oh yeah.
a 47-32 record.
Yeah.
Minnesota would have had a 47-32 record. I don't know if you guys saw, but they were dominating Milwaukee, and the Bucks outscored them 40-13 in the fourth to come back to win it.
Wow, that's ridiculous.
Crazy.
And then
And so
Minnesota was streaking too. So
oh yeah,
yeah,
I was telling you, I
yeah,
was ready to come on and ride the
yeah,
Minnesota train. Like, hey,
yeah,
we're talking about a lot of teams, and obviously they're still gonna. I think they'd be still a force to be reckoned with.
yeah,
But it's interesting if they would have won, we would have had 5 teams tied at 47-32.
yeah.
Nonetheless, we
And,
got 4 with
and
Minnesota
that
back, 1 game
and
back.
that one loss put them in eighth. They're down to eighth, right? So this is
Yes.
freaking. It is going to be crazy. The battle between 3 and 8. Lakers just win those two
They,
games, so they secure that. But man, this battle is going to be crazy to finish the last 3 games or so of the season. Um, so yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
and
Clippers are coming.
yep. And honestly, like I don't. there's just so much that could happen. So in terms of like tiebreakers, we'll discuss more of that when there's like maybe 1 or 2 games left, because there's
Yeah.
so I was doing some research and there's just like it just depends on which teams tie. If there's a
Yeah.
3-way tie, 4-way tie. Obviously, if there's a 4-way tie at this point, Clippers would be up top. But even things could change the last few games because some of these teams will be playing each other. I know Denver plays Memphis. I know Minnesota plays Memphis. Golden State and the Clippers play the last game of the season.
Yeah.
So there's going to be some obviously flip flopping. Lakers, though, I mean, if you go, I don't know, like obviously they got to win 2 games. So the next
Yeah.
3 games,
Yeah.
well documented. So they got Dallas tomorrow night. They do have Houston. Let's keep in mind Houston has the number 2 seed locked up. So we'll see like whom they play. They may play everybody on Friday. They may not. I have no idea. And then let's get these first 2 games so that we could just rest on Sunday. The last thing we need is having to go into Portland on Sunday. I don't know if they're going to be worried about going to Cancun or not, but playing a team that has like literally nothing to play for is sometimes the most
Danger.
dangerous. And if we wrap this up Friday, Lakers most likely will start the playoffs on next Sunday. That'll be a full 9 days of rest. That's going to be so
Yeah.
valuable.
Yeah.
And so that's who's coming up for the Lakers, and then obviously the other
Oh,
teams.
yeah. Yeah. I didn't really think about it that way. So the Lakers literally just could win tomorrow, win Friday, and not play on Sunday. Or, not play their majority of their players
Yeah,
on Sunday and have all that
exactly.
time. So if I'm JJ Redick, I always say one game at a time, but win the next 2 games and y'all get 9 days of rest, right? And which this
Absolutely.
team definitely needs. So, yeah, that's a good tidbit. I would say in the East Coast, Eastern Conference, it really not much is changing.
No,
You knew Cleveland, Boston, New York are your top 3 teams, and that's probably not going to change at all.
doesn't look like it.
More than likely, unless Indiana somehow jumps the Knicks
New
there.
York.
Or yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen.
Oh, I
And
gotcha.
then you got the 4 or 5, which will be Indiana and Milwaukee, more than likely, unless Detroit's able to kind of jump Milwaukee. But like I said, I kind of said this earlier. I've said this
You're,
in past episodes.
you're gonna have your matchup, I think.
You know my matchup: New York and Detroit, first round. I think that's going to be the best,
Detroit
probably the best series. I'm
basketball.
talking about that's solid going six, at least 6 games. And I just think it's going to be one of those tough series. Like you're going to see a lot of people talk a lot of ish, and some back and forth with those 2 teams. That's going to be a good one. I do think the Indiana Milwaukee series would be a really good one too as well.
Awesome.
And I'm not really gonna start mentioning some of the play-in teams and 7 and 8 yet because I'm not talking about Chicago and Miami and all that stuff.
Those would
So
be two
no
sweeps.
disrespect, but I'm just saying once those kind of even out, we can talk about those series a little bit. But yeah, the West is all up in the air. The East seems to be
Dynamite.
figured out for the most part.
Practically, yeah. I mean, there's only a few games left. I'm almost positive whatever you see right now is going to be the positioning because
Yeah,
everybody is separated by more than 2 games or 2 or more
yeah,
games.
yeah. I don't think that's
Um,
yeah,
and I think rest these last few games will be at a premium. And yeah, I think we're set. Obviously, we're set in the West with the 1 and the 2. The 9 and the 10 are set. But everything in between, I mean, obviously, as we mentioned, Lakers, they better get 2 wins. That's all I got to
yeah,
say.
yeah. I
And
mean, if the Lakers fall out of this third seed right now, it is their own undoing. Like
absolutely.
you know what to do, you know what you need to do. So I would be really shocked if they can't get 2 wins out of these next 3 games here. So, yeah, we'll be on tomorrow. Obviously, talking about see what happens with Dallas and the emotional return. But I wanted to get to kind of last topic and just really talk about these OKC Thunder. Like, are they the favorite? Like, I know Boston are the champs, but
Yeah.
I don't see them. I see him with a couple flaws here and there, but I don't see him with many flaws overall as a
No.
team. They play their best defensive team in the league, correct?
Yep.
They have more than likely what we're going to call the MVP on their team,
Yeah, I
right?
think it's. I think he's going to be the MVP.
For the most part, especially with Mike Malone getting fired, like that whole thing just kind of
Yeah,
throws it up in the air. It's gonna be.
it messes up with his candidacy a little bit
I
too,
think
for
it's going to
sure.
kind of ruin some of the votes as far as voting for Joker at this point.
I think so.
Based on this, I mean, nobody knew this was coming. So, but I just think they are the team to beat right now in the whole NBA, and that's including
Mm.
the Celtics, in my opinion. What do you think?
I think Celtics are still the team to beat. Obviously, they're the champs. I think like I look like these last two games. I totally get it. I'm not gonna look that much into it because when a team is really not playing for much, like you don't get everything from them.
Right.
I still think they're probably the heavy favorites in the West. I think like the Warriors and the Lakers can provide a lot of problems for them, and I think Boston would be the other team that would provide problems. So I'd have to put Boston still number one, and then I'd probably have to put OKC as far as the team to beat in the West just because they've been the number one seed 2 years in a row. Obviously, they lock in on D, as you mentioned. They got
Yeah.
length. They got a superstar. They got an MVP, most likely. Great coaching. Not a lot of holes from what I
Hmm.
could see. And I think they can be got, to be honest. But it's going to take a pretty big effort to beat them 4 out of 7. But we'll see. I mean, I think you can almost like pencil them in for the Western Conference Finals at least.
Yeah.
And then, of course, a lot can happen. I mean, if Warriors are a 4-5 and they play them, I think that would be a tough ass series, 7-game series written all over it. But yeah, those are my thoughts as far as the OKC Thunder go.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the champs are the champs, and Boston's going to be pretty tough. I just don't think they're going to have too hard of a road to the championship. I
Right.
think whether or not you get the Knicks or Pistons in the second round, I think would be a
True.
tough matchup, right? Like, but it's
Yeah.
I think the Knicks would be more obviously if
Yeah,
they
I think so.
somehow
Yeah.
if Pistons upset the Knicks, then you're back at it again with like Boston playing an Indiana team. Simple, right?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like a
Yeah.
young team that's like up and coming, but they're just not there. And then
Cleveland and
Cleveland.
Boston.
I mean,
Cleveland. Oh, we didn't even bring them up. I'm sorry.
Cleveland
This is for
for
you.
you. No disrespect, but
But we didn't. No
I
disrespect, but we didn't even bring you up.
sorry. I'm
Rockets
not
and
trying to.
Cavs.
I'm not trying to disrespect the Cleveland Cavs. I just think Boston's a superior team in the East Coast, and I don't think the Cleveland Cavs are on the same stratosphere as the OKC Thunder
Right.
as number one seeds, in my opinion. Right. And I will say, I mean, OKC went 29-1 against the Eastern Conference. 29-1.
That's true. That's
I
right. You
mean,
mentioned that.
I mean, I don't know. They just dominated it. So, I think they're going to be a really tough out. I think teams can beat them, right? I think there's going to be teams that are going to match up well. I think the Lakers do match up well with OKC. I do think that is a team that would be tough for them to battle in the playoffs.
Right.
I think the Warriors would be a tough team as well, just because they bring that experience. They bring the toughness. You can have Draymond chirping at everybody, and that just kind of and you have Steph and Jimmy Butler. So like I think like there's certain teams that I think if they play, if the Rockets get by,
Veterans.
if the Rockets somehow get by and get to the conference finals, you will see that we will be going to OKC in the finals. You'll see Stephen
Yeah.
A talk about, I don't want to go to Oklahoma City. He
But I'm
will be
going.
in Oklahoma City. And Charles Barkley and all those guys that don't want to be there, they will be there. So I think there's just some matchups that they would have difficulty with, in particular, it'd be the Lakers and the Warriors, in my opinion. So it's gonna
Yep.
be, we're getting close to the end of the season. This is when we're getting excited. We're getting ready. I'm stoked about the playoffs this year. I think it's gonna be everything that you want with superstars everywhere. So,
Yep.
um,
It's gonna be good. Our luck, it's gonna be Rockets and Cavaliers finals, but
oh,
just
stop,
kidding. Just
man.
kidding.
Hey,
Hey,
and all
the 1, 2, 3
ain't
seed,
no
1, 2, 3.
way. You ain't no way that's happening. I mean, the NBA would. Could you imagine the ratings of that? I just can't imagine.
It's not gonna happen.
Anyways, I want to get to a couple things. Let's see here before we kind of get off. We got Cam Miller. I know you're from New York. Yeah, we did talk about the kid Jaylen Wells that broke his hand. Um, and he thinks there is more to the story with the Nuggets. Firing Malone, I would probably have to agree with
Exactly.
you. There more than likely is something that we don't know that would cause you to fire your coach with 3 games to go on the season.
Yep.
Uh,
We'll hear about it on the Netflix
yeah,
documentary
yeah.
soon.
There'll be some more stories probably coming out towards the end of this year and summer. But yeah, man, great episode here with the Hoops Rehab team. Um, we will be on tomorrow for Luka's emotional return to Dallas. So that should be a good game, and also just to see where his head's at with all that. What does Dallas do as far as obviously they'll probably have some sort of video, but I would imagine the fans will be cheering heavily for Luka.
I think so.
And then also, let's not forget. I mean, this is all about Luka, 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 Luka. AD is
Oh my,
pissed.
he's back or
Like,
back playing the
have
Lakers.
we have even said his name on this show
That's crazy. I
recently, right? Which is kind of sad
Anthony
because we've known him
Davis.
for a long time.
I know
But
that's true. Damn.
I'm
And
looking forward to seeing what AD does. I do think there is going to be some drama with AD tomorrow. I believe he is going to dunk on Jackson Hayes or somebody, and he is going to give the loudest yell, pound his
ah,
chest, braids going everywhere, like I'm here type of thing. I think you're going to see that tomorrow. So, looking forward to the game, and we will be on after that tomorrow. So,
yeah. I think
anything left?
I mean, yeah. Other than we can't believe we didn't mention Anthony Davis. It's going to be an emotional night.
Yeah.
Lakers at the end of the day, they're going to have to pick up a W because
Yeah.
we don't want the Lakers having to win the last 2 games of the year. Pressure will be on. Get
For sure.
tomorrow, get Friday, and we'll be resting for 9 days. But thanks y'all
Yep.
for coming on and
Yep.
good show, Doc, and go Lakers.
All right. Hoops Rehab team out. See you guys tomorrow.
Peace out.